point that these angels and godly presences are trying to make is that you have to take responsibility for becoming a better person and ideally activating for system change, because this is not humanity's planet to destroy.
That's right.
For him is the message. Why do you ask?
Someone in that higher dimension room is starting to talk, and they're starting to talk about an image that we were shown shortly before filming, and the image was taken in what was once the Amazon, and a small part of that image you could see what the Amazon jungle used to look like, with the very, very green trees, very, very lush landscape, and all around that image you could see what it looks like after it's been destroyed, where it looks like desert. And they're talking about how the nature realms here on planet Earth has been under a huge attack and feels really, really bad. It feels terrible to be a member of the nature realms, either in this density or out of this density, either way. And they're talking about the illnesses that are spreading in human society. And they're talking about how people feel very, very bad in their bodies, humans, who tend to only think about humans as being the ones that matter.
And now they're talking about other dimensions also, and how the illness feels in the cells of bodies, and how the illness feels at a global level, like the nature realms as a whole for any particular planet or any planet dimension combo pack, and how the nature realms in that intersection of planet and dimension feels. And they all feel really bad. And my attention keeps being drawn to this chicken, and that particular call, it could mean the chicken just laid an egg. And the unfortunate part is that chickens lie.
That's true.
Which we were heartbroken to discover.
Oh, yeah.
But when we used to hear that call, we would go over to the nest and check, and sometimes the chicken would have just laid a lovely fresh egg.
That's right.
And sometimes there's no fresh egg in the nesting boxes, and she is lying.
Exactly.
Now she shut up. And we think it's possible that somebody upstairs in that room of angels and godly presences, possibly affiliated with the nature realms, was kind of second-guessing themselves and kicking themselves for having called in the spirit world.
Exactly.
Because the spirit world has armed humanity.
That's right.
With destructive tools like internal combustion engines and whatnot. And that's what's caused the destruction of planet Earth, is the tools that the spirit world sent in to humanity. Because when the spirit world arrived here, there were, by our best estimates, fewer than 80,000 humans, and it was a forested planet.
That's right.
And healthy seas, teeming with life. That's the only way we've ever heard the word teeming used.
That's
but
true.
It was a very healthy biosphere. And now it's primarily deserted, and more than 50% of non-human life has been destroyed at humanity's hands using tools supplied by the spirit world. And so these presences are feeling stupid about that, saying we, the nature realm, should never have invited in the spirit world. We should never have had anything to do with them. It was a mistake. And somebody else is saying, but remember how the lying and cheating and stealing and bullying was here, and it wasn't budging. And the decision at the time was, we're not able to get this situation unstuck ourselves. I know it seems risky, and I know it seems like a bad idea, and maybe it is a bad idea, but does anybody else have any idea on how to break through on this lying and cheating and stealing and bullying? And then the room is very quiet. And then somebody says, all right, well then, I know it seems like making a deal with the mafia, but I don't have a better idea. And they took a chance and invited in the spirit world, and obviously we know it has not turned out well for the nature realms.
That's right.
For him is the message. Why do you ask? And now the camera is kind of like pointing up. It's like watching the camera point up, and they're saying something about wishful thinking and about how the higher powers are able to see through the eyes of presences who aren't actively doing evil things.
Exactly.
And that a lot of those presences are given to wishful thinking.
That's true.
There's a lot of people out there, and we'll use a political example, and we apologize for this, and we hope it doesn't offend anybody, but there is a lot of environmentalists out there who think that surely what with all the bad things that have happened during this past period of time since President Trump was elected, that surely he will not be reelected. And that they kind of report that up to their guardian angels.
Exactly.
And so the guardian angels are catching the wishful thinking of the populace.
Like a contagious disease.
Interesting. Yes, like a contagious disease. But if they look at 538, maybe one of those, it is a website that accumulates polling data from many, many, many polling sources, and it weights the data for bias based on the accuracy of the previous predictions of the polling sources.
Exactly.
And they arrive at a weighted average adjusted for polling bias of popularity of President Trump, just to pick an example, and please don't get your knickers in a twist. And President Trump's approval ratings have really kind of not changed. They hover around the 41, 42, 43% range.
That's right.
All the time. They don't move. And it's just kind of like team sports. It's like, I am a University of Florida alumnus, a Gator, a proud member of the Gator Nation, and I scorn the Seminoles, who are lesser presences. And the FSU Seminoles think the same about the Gators, although they're clearly deluded, right?
Presumably so.
Presumably. And people are choosing political affiliations with that same team sport, jockeying us and them.
That's true.
Energy.
Lack of clarity.
Well, interesting. Or lack of importance. They're not even trying to consider the big questions.
That's
and that this actually matters. And it would be bad enough in normal times, but we're literally destroying all life on Earth. And now we have 4 years and a little bit for our country, the wealthy countries, and anybody who's watching this, you can just pretty much assume that your country has 4 years and a little bit to become carbon neutral. I think it might be Mother Mary who's saying this.
Exactly.
She says this over and over again. She says, and nobody is taking the lead on this. So it's up to each of you and us and all of us as individuals to become carbon neutral for ourselves and to really make an effort to do that. And that means stop traveling, which is happening very nicely right now because of the COVID restrictions.
But the point someone is trying to make upstairs is about the wishful thinking. And about how it's interdimensional.
She's really trying to continue her point, and so she's going to just graciously ignore that low-class person, is what they're saying, who interrupted her thought when she paused for breath, and she's going to continue and say, you need to stop traveling, you need to stop buying unnecessary things, and here's what's necessary: food, toilet paper, cleaning products, solar panels. Maybe a hand pump if you're not on city water. That's what you need to be buying, nothing else. Now you can continue.
It's quiet now.
Right. So as the camera points upward now, we really are feeling strongly, whoever's speaking, that the wishful thinking upstairs is causing upstairs presences, angels and godly presences, to hold karma in abeyance wrongly based on wishful thinking.
That's
and
the
they're
point.
thinking that, for example, surely President Trump won't get reelected, and then we'll still have a little bit of time left to get carbon neutral for the United States. These might be angels responsible for the United States
That
of
could be.
America. It kind of has that feeling that we'll have enough time. Surely we'll have enough time. Surely this will happen. But again, this other statistician, kind of like a statistician to the gods, is referring them to the last election. For example, it was 2.9 million votes more in favor of Hillary Clinton than Donald Trump. And Donald Trump was still ensconced as if he was voted into office, which he wasn't.
That's
it's a
right.
flawed system based on the Electoral College, which was also, we think from the start, created to make it easy to steal elections.
That's right.
And there have been 5 presidents in the history of the United States who lost the popular vote and were still ensconced as president, and Donald Trump is one of them. But he, by far, the biggest margin, and so the problem is getting worse. And so these upstairs presences, we think that they need to assume that he's going to get reelected under the same corrupt system that seated him in office the first time. Like, it's not, the underlying issue of the Electoral College hasn't been resolved.
That's
that
right.
problem's still there. And so people are ensconced who actually are not voted in. And that's the reality of it. And we have 4 years and a little bit to become carbon neutral. So this is a conversation that actually matters. Because as you may or may not be aware, Donald Trump is undoing environmental protections and amping up fossil fuel emissions and becoming much less carbon neutral, much more carbon impactful. Headed in the wrong direction, pulling the machinery of destruction in the wrong direction at the crucial time, and this is a problem. And so we really would like for the whoever's speaking, unclear who's speaking, might be some representatives from the nature realms, would like the angels and godly presences to focus. And it's like we have this internal statement, focus, Katie, and it was from this one client who, bless her heart, had brain issues, and it was really hard for her to focus. And we're not trying to be nasty about
No.
Katie. She had a hard time focusing. And so when we say focus, Katie, that means the person is really having a hard time focusing.
That's right.
And that's the intonation, is focus, Katie, focus. He's going to be reelected. Now, what is your plan with that reality?